Alrighty, folks. I want everybody to first understand we are recording this at 8. Oh, no, it's actually 7:57 a.m. Monday morning Pacific. So lots of things might change. This video may not age well, but I want to put this out there like I did on my daily financial news. I think the great freak out, the great bloodbath of Monday morning is frankly stupid. I think a lot of people have taken headlines and trade wars and all of these things, and they're not looking at the chessboard. Frankly, you're probably not supposed to. We're playing 3 or 4D chess or whatever the heck it's called. You don't understand the pieces. You don't understand the rules. You don't even understand the motivation. You see a stupid headline in a financial article and you freak out and you sell assets and you lose a lot of money. So we're going to have this conversation with the one and only Taylor from Life Goal Investments. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, and I think I disagree with almost every point you just made, so this is going to be awesome.
Awesome. Well, I love it. So as the guest, and as somebody who spent 12 years on Wall Street, somebody who's paid to allocate capital, why don't you talk about how Sunday evening and your Monday morning has gone thus far? And, yeah.
It's been interesting. You start getting calls, emails, etc. yesterday saying, hey, what are we going to do to allocate our capital correctly in the wake of the tariffs that are going to hit right away tomorrow morning? Or I guess it was actually midnight tonight that the anticipated tariffs were supposed to be locked in. And we've said, hey, we've known this is coming now for a month or so. We're doing nothing. We've already prepared for this. But nonetheless, it is definitely settling or unsettling the clients, and it's our job to settle them.
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting because, again, I don't think people – I mean, if you want to know who President Trump is, go back and read Art of the Deal. He is a New York real estate tycoon who negotiates like a New York real estate tycoon. Mm-hmm. So the hammer, the sledgehammer of tariffs, 25. But you guys didn't read the subtext. This is not a trade war. His motivation is not a trade war. His motivation with these two is to stop fentanyl from getting across our borders and stop the illegal migration coming in. That's those two things are connected. So why is that important, in my opinion? First, as you correctly said, Taylor, while lots of people think the tariffs have already started, they have not. They don't go into effect until 12:01 a.m. Tuesday morning, or in about, 16 hours.
Yep.
Why is that important? Because we have 16 hours to get the president of Mexico and the president or prime minister or whatever it is of Canada just to agree to put more military or police or whatever it is at the border to raid suspected drug. I mean, it wouldn't take a lot from these two presidents to say, yes, we are now taking it serious. We've allocated $10 million or whatever the heck it is to protect the borders and to stop fentanyl from crossing our borders. And bingo, bango, these tariffs disappear. Never happen. And I think a lot of people are just overreacting to tariffs will cause inflation, include blah, 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 trade war, retaliation. Guys, get your head out of your ass. This is a drug war, not a trade war. So that's what I think.
A drug and immigration war. Those are the two headlines.
Fair enough.
So here's my big – is that the stated goal of Trump? I want to curb illegal immigration in the United States, and I want to put fentanyl out of business of coming across our borders.
Well, what I'm saying is that's the goal of these two tariffs. Now, let's be clear. Right. I expect Trump to go after pharmaceuticals and all other things with future tariffs. I'm not saying that this is the end-all, be-all of tariffs. We're going to hear the word tariffs 1,000 times in the next 90 days.
Totally.
I'm only worried about these two.
Right.
And I think the market missed it.
Right. Well, I don't understand the policy. So the policy on the southern border, I totally understand. We seized 21,000 pounds of fentanyl coming over the U.S. border last year. We apprehended 1.5 million immigrants coming across the border from Mexico last year. You want to say that there's a war on fentanyl and immigration on the southern border? I'm cool. On the northern border, we took 40 pounds of fentanyl coming across in the United States. we took less than 1/10 of the immigration apprehensions across the northern border. Make it meant. What are we trying to negotiate with Canada? Is my question. Is it a fentanyl problem? Because we had nearly as much fentanyl that was apprehended going into Canada from the United States that came from Canada into the U.S.
Again, what President Trump is trying to tell his base, he was voted in, is I'm protecting the United States. Now, it is not lost on anyone that the Mexico border is by far worse than the Canadian border. But again, if you are in charge of America, we have two borders and only two borders. Mm-hmm. And your job is to strengthen both. Now, let's be clear. I think Mexico's commitment to the border is probably going to be tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars in police and military. The Canadian Mounties, they create a process to do one or more things, and maybe they add 5 more checkpoints, and they're good to go, right? The degree is not different, but the commitment is the same. I am going to protect.
Why are you confident in your analysis of what Trump is looking for on the Canadian border?
Because, again, I don't think the threat from Canada is the same as Mexico, but I think Trump wants to echo, I'm protecting America, and we have two borders.
Is it a non-zero event that tariffs actually get placed on Canada?
For this issue? Well, let's play with that. So again, as I've tried to say, all Canada has to do is say, I hear you. We are investing more in protecting our border, your border.
Says Michael Zuber, though. That's what Michael Zuber says.
This is all, dude. Let me check. Let me check who owns the channel. Let me check. Yep, that's what I'm saying. Again, this is chess. So again, I think it's all about optics. It's all about message. It's staying true to the campaign. And again, you could argue or not about disagree or whatever, but this is not, there will be more tariffs. And I expect him to put lots of tariffs on specific things. And some of those things will come from Canada, but this ain't the start of it. This is just the message. If I'm strong on drugs, in my opinion. And again, the great news about this story is this video will probably be published today at 4 p.m. Pacific.
After he's already spoken with Trudeau.
I could be completely wrong. This could age like spoiled milk. And again, the comments will light me up and call me an idiot just like every other day.
No. I don't think you're illogical. I think maybe the difference is I look at this from a market perspective. You look at this from a global political economic perspective, which is totally fine. I look at this and say, if you are a CEO of a U.S. company, how do you feel confident making decisions right now to import goods from wherever you want in the world and know that you're not going to have an impending tariff that's coming, whenever down the line?
Well, again, those are different decisions. I'm talking about these two specific things. If I was a CEO of a company, and let's just say 80% of my materials sourced from other countries, let's just pretend for a minute.
Yep.
I would look at that inventory list and I would start to say, where could I source these in the United States? And I would look for the delta. Let's talk about lumber for a second, just because I'm in real estate, right?
Yep.
And I don't know the prices. We probably should talk to, somebody that does, but let's just pretend for a moment. Let's say Canadian lumber plus transportation cost is 20% cheaper than U.S. lumber.
Sure.
Let's just pretend.
Yeah, I have no idea the reality of that, but that very well could be true.
Yeah, you could insert any word for lumber, like
Sure.
any raw material, because this is just an example. So I would try to figure out where's the cheapest U.S. source, and I would know that delta.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be ready to pull that trigger if anything above 20% came in as a tariff. Because I think the tariffs that are coming, the ones that will stick, not this stupid not this like everything
broad reaching.
Broad reaching, right? Unfocused.
Yep.
That's just a New York negotiation thing. The focused ones are coming because I think he wants to bring manufacturing. I think he wants to bring pharmaceuticals. He wants to make American manufacturing go again. So those are coming. So that's what I would do if I was a CEO. I would look at the top 7 or 8 things in my BOM, my bill of material, especially if they're sourced outside the country. I would go get an inventory list of where I could get them from the U.S. or other country. I would know the delta, and I would have a plan B. It's pretty simple.
Yeah. Yeah. So what you're describing right there is inflation on those inputs.
Well, some, yes, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately.
So the reality of what tariffs do is they take away a capitalistic society. A capitalistic society allows the free flow of capital to a place where money is most efficient. If you start stepping in and becoming a hurdle in the direction of free flow of capital, inevitably prices leak higher. And either one of two things happens. As an investor, margins get hurt. That's not good. GM was down 7.5% today because they imported, GM, a US-based company, imported 750,000 cars in the United States last year.
Right.
And CNBC put out their prognostication that those cars went $6,500 higher in price based on a 25% tariff. So that's that. So one, an investor gets hurt because margins get squeezed.
That is
on the other end, they get passed through. And that's the reality of it is if it's $6,500, $5,000 get passed through the end consumer. And to your point, maybe it won't be broad reaching like that, but it's not hidden on anyone that directional tariffs are.
Yeah. So let's just play the full tariff story out, because again, tariffs have, and again, let's talk about tariffs that stick for a long time, not these on and off, 60-day cycle stuff, because that's a non-event. In my opinion. Let's just say they stick for a year plus. Couple of things will happen. One is we, the United States, we pay for those. Either our companies pay for them or our citizens pay for them.
Correct.
Canada's not paying for them. Mexico's not paying. Let's just get that off the table.
Well, and can I add a caveat there? The tactic of the tariff is to make that good more expensive for a U.S. consumer to then have a U.S. company become more competitive.
Exactly where I was going.
Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just trying to make the logic there.
No, so again, as you say, right? So everybody's focused on tariffs today because our companies or our consumers will pay the delta. It's not the country. That's not how it works.
And that's why Trump says in the short term we're going to feel some pain. He has overtly said that himself. As
the stock market and crypto showed you over the weekend, pain was felt by all. It was out there.
Totally.
But the other side of that, and this is where tariffs in the long term can encourage investment in the United States. I've always thought, and I've said this for years, the fact that pharmaceuticals are predominantly made by countries that don't like us is a national security problem. That is unacceptable, in my opinion. So I fully expect there to be nasty tariffs on pharmaceuticals, which will then allow American manufacturers to spin up, build manufacturing plants, probably with robotics, and bingo bango, in 5 years, we are suddenly one of the largest producers of pharmaceuticals. But yes, that means pharmaceuticals.
You made a very important point there. And it was the only point that made your entire sentence make sense, or your entire thesis make sense. Because my point on this is, okay, if we're going to make the U.S. more competitive because we're going to raise prices elsewhere, we're going to bring jobs back to the U.S. at a 4% unemployment rate, when we are now going to be deporting and less immigration coming into the United States, gets pinned even lower, meaning wage prices inevitably go higher. You have to compete for those workers. Unless Elon, in his infinite wisdom, which he is a rock star, I shouldn't say that negatively, that came off bad. Unless he is able to create Tesla robots or whatever, where robotics meaningfully increase productivity. But if you look at productivity over the past 15 years, it hasn't moved. We got AI, we got robotics, we got this, we got that. Productivity per employee has not gotten any better.
Yeah. So what was the one thing I said that was okay?
That robotics were going to be the source of the labor. Because without that, you get a wage spiral. If we're gonna meaningfully bring jobs back to the United States at a 4% unemployment rate. And, by the way, the baseline where we're inflating from is unconscionably higher than it is where we're sourcing this current labor. So, it's you're going to move. I looked up this data, and now I'm going to butcher it a little bit, but it'll be very, very directional. And it was average workers. So average worker is a terrible statistic because it gets so inflated by Elon Musk, who lives in the United States. But nonetheless, it's incredibly directional. So the average worker in the U.S. makes $80,000 a year. And I know, again, that's overinflated. Don't murder me on that. 53 in Canada, 13 in Mexico. So that's where we're taking jobs back from 13 and 53 versus 80. It's average. It's not median. It's not perfect, but the directional bias is definitely there.
Sure. Yeah. No, there is no question that American employees make more. There's no question.
The reality of the problem with the tariffs, in my opinion, is when it comes to the market, I know we're not discussing the market, but that's what I do. So when it comes to the market, there has been zero delineation in price between tariff winners and tariff losers. The market has priced this in as a 0% chance of happening. That's what that tells me. And so you look at companies that would be massively impacted until today. You didn't see GM get nuked. Oh, did we just learn about tariffs being possible?
Yeah. Did we just take his word for it? He's been telling us for 90 days. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's all been coming. And it's really hard to invest with a ton of conviction when you're investing in a country that has a wild card, which I'm not a Trump hater by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just looking at the facts here and saying, we've all voted on him and brought him into office on the fact that he was going to in place, tariffs or whatever it was, or not, and then it was a bargaining chip, but you voted on an unknown. We all voted on an unknown and brought him into office. And it is very hard with certainty to make decisions for an economy, to make a decision, are you going to invest in XYZ company with an unknown outstanding?
Well, I don't know that I buy that. I think of all people, he's been extremely clear on what's coming.
On saying he's going to present a 25% tariff and then knowing, or you saying that you are highly convinced that he's not going to place it.
Yeah. Well, again, I think
what he's saying.
So okay, let's have this. So you got to understand, we are playing a game of chess, lots of pieces. And
but I think the underlying thesis, I didn't mean to cut you off, is the fact that he's not going to do what he's saying he's going to do.
No, that's not what. If you heard me say that, that's not what I said.
Okay, let me shut up. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
So again, we are playing the game of chess. The goal of this game is to make America stronger when Trump is out of office in 4 years than it is today. That's the goal of this game.
Yep.
And he will be making lots of individual moves, like this threat of 25% tariffs, which is not a trade war, but a drug war, in my opinion.
Yep.
And he'll make lots of those. And we are going to overreact to individual moves because we don't focus on the bigger game. Ask yourself, does this make America stronger in 4 years? That's the question we should be asking.
Right.
Not, oh, what does the CEO need to do today or tomorrow? It's like, look at the bigger board.
Yeah.
The market does this all the time, right? Deep Seek last Monday.
For sure.
Right. And again, dude, here's a crazy call. It's now 8:15 a.m. Pacific. If the NASDAQ ends positive today, I was right. That's what I'll call it. If the NASDAQ goes green today, that again, we're missing the bigger picture.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a very opaque bigger picture, because again, I think that
what's opaque about making America stronger?
What's opaque is the tactic in doing it. Saying I'm going to place a 25% tariff, and everyone's understanding is he's not going to place a 25% tariff. And that's the way every asset is priced right now. So until this morning when there was a snapback.
You've played chess. I'm certain you've played chess before.
Yeah.
So again, you don't like when the first move on the board is a pawn 2 steps forward, you don't freak out because you don't understand why they moved that pawn. Right? The game of chess is much bigger and broader and takes time in theory, and one move leads to the next move and all of these bigger pictures.
Right.
And that's what the market, and frankly, the people that watch my channel and other channels get wrong is they're like, oh my God, he moved that pawn? What? That pawn? Oh my God, that's crazy and stupid. And dude, step back for 90 days and look at the bigger board.
My point is that there's been an underreaction. There has been no reaction until today in what the tariff threats have been. There's literally been no reaction. There has been no positive impact to a company that would experience a tailwind from tariffs. There has been no headwind to a company that would experience a headwind from tariffs. There's been no impact. That's the point. The market has underreacted to this, not overreacted.
Okay. All right, that's interesting. So now I get what you meant earlier about 0 winners and 0 losers. And that's probably a good thing. I'm going to wonder actually when we come back and look at this, because I'm sure people will look at the red morning.
This will be fun for people to watch too, because we don't usually disagree this vehemently.
Yeah,
we disagree, but this has been a more significant disagreement than we typically have.
Yeah, so it's going to be really interesting because the other thing I feel confident about, using the chess analogy, is if people are freaking out about this pawn move, just wait till he moves a rook or a bishop or the queen. It's going to get bananas.
Well, for the record, if this went into place, this would be moving the queen. This is a 25% tariff on the 2 largest trading partners that we have. Period.
No,
there's no overreaction to that. The market could not overreact to a 25% tariff increase in price on our 2 largest trading partners.
No, absolutely.
And so who's going to feel it worse, them or us? Well, if we have a trade deficit, who's going to feel it worse? If we are importing more goods from them than we are exporting to them, and the consumer is the payer of the tariff, and we place 25 and they reciprocate with 25, who's going to feel it more?
Well, there's 2 things. So our consumers and companies will feel it, but Canada will go into a recession. Canada will be in a recession. No question.
I think you're overstating the fact that we have confidence that would not put us in a recession.
Well, I didn't say it wouldn't, but I would guarantee a Canadian recession. We could go into one as well. It's just the delta is that much difference, right? Because again, to your point, if these tariffs go into place and it takes only 10% of the consumption off the table for Canada, that stuff sourced elsewhere, Canada's in a recession immediately.
Yeah. I don't know the statistics behind it. What is that trade deficit or trade surplus relative?
It's about 8 to 1. It's
relative to their GDP. What is the 8 to 1?
We export versus we import. Our imports from Canada are 8 to 1 the size of our exports. So they feel every dollar increase.
Okay. I gotcha. Yes. So no argument that it's an outsized impact on them. I think the argument is that we've got a $157 billion trade deficit with our southern border and a $55 trillion. I'm sorry. If I'm saying trillion, that is incorrect. Billion. 157 billion at our southern border, 55 at our northern border. And if we start placing tariffs there, they reciprocate with tariffs back. It's not a good impact for our economy either. That's the point. That's the point, is that no one wins from tariffs.
Nobody wins from
speaking. That brings us back to your original point of we could win the flow of drugs, illegal immigration, which I still don't think makes any sense to tariff our northern border. Our southern border, I'll agree with. But nonetheless, no one wins economically from a tariff battle.
Totally agree. So again, this may age because I will publish this at 4 p.m. and this could all be over. But I suspect that these tariffs will be at a minimum delayed. And it's just, he wants the message to be, I'm doing what I said. And
by not doing what he says.
That's not true. Dude, you're focused on a pawn. Get your head out of your ass. This is not.
You're fair. You're fair.
This is not the one to lose your shit on.
I'm kind of snarkily fair in my comment as well.
All righty, folks. Let us know in the comments below. Should I get roasted or Taylor get roasted? Because one of us
both. Get after
one of us is spectacularly wrong at this point. All right, man. Tell me where people can find you.
Yeah, find us on Instagram, on TikTok, at Life Goal Investments. We do stuff like this, but in 60 seconds every single day. So you can go on there and roast me too. I have no idea how you do it.
It's so awesome. You like watching your stuff for a couple of months could seriously be. It is seriously as good as MBA material, right? I have an MBA. I was an economist. I was an accountant. So it's my world. The stuff that you do in 60 seconds, I fundamentally don't understand how you get that done. So it's amazing.
It's crazy how when you look at stripping out every single word that you can get a message that should be 30-minute dissertation down to 30 seconds. Yep.
You do it so well, man. Keep it up.
You're the man. Thanks, Michael.
Yep.